Hello, I'm Father Louis Scurti with Friends of the Word, and we thank you for joining us on the weekday Word as well as the homily of the week. And I'd like to remind you today that the homily is going to be short, maybe that's good or bad, because the parish has a special appeal. So you won't hear the gospel, so I'm going to put the gospel citings in my notes, and I want you to go to the gospel, but I'll refer to it. It'll be a short homily, but hopefully the Holy Spirit will bring it into my heart and yours as speedily as possible and as fulfilling as possible. Please pass this on to your family and friends and contact me. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to invite you to my email address, fatherlouiscurti@hotmail.com. God bless you. I'm going to just say a few words only. I knew this was happening, so I prepared a few tiny words. So it's right in theme of the Holy Scriptures and, of course, theme of giving and sharing. I have a question for you. You heard the gospel, you heard the invitation go out, and I wonder if we were invited to celebrate at this great banquet in heaven, would we accept or not? Would we respond to the RSVP card or not? With the stipulation that, as John Wesley, he was a Methodist minister who founded Methodism, he had a dream about this gospel, and he said he wondered if he went to heaven, would he be surprised at who was there? Would he be surprised at who wasn't there? And would he be surprised that he was there? And I think that's applicable to any of us, because the banquet that is promised in Isaiah on Mount Zion, the banquet that Christ is giving us in the story of the man throwing a banquet to celebrate, would we be invited? We're not talking about food necessarily in heaven. We're talking about being members of God's family and living out the riches of our faith. The banquet is living the faith every day. Who would be invited? And you might be surprised that some of the people who would be there getting a front row seat would be the poor and the marginalized and those that we don't think about, even think about getting to heaven, because they didn't do as much as we did to go to church and do our stipends and donate. Well, they might have very good seats before us. And once we're invited, it's funny, in the old days, Jesus knows this. In the old days, in the time of Jesus, if someone was giving a banquet and someone didn't have the proper garments, they would have another set of garments available to them, okay? And that person, the guest who didn't have the proper garments, would put those garments on. And you know that goes on today. Try to go to a fancy schmancy restaurant, guys especially. Try to go to a fancy schmancy restaurant without the proper garment. This summer, coming up from Florida, I stopped and visited a friend at Hilton Head. And he said, what are you wearing? When I travel, especially in the South and during the summer, I wear, bathing suit, that looks like clothes, and a T-shirt, He said, you have to wear something nice because we're going to go to XYZ dinner. Oh, I says, okay. So Jerry and I stopped at a cheap supermarket, and we bought nice pants. They probably lasted just the meal, and a nice shirt. So we looked nice. Why? Because there, the requirements of humanity are you got to look nice to come to church. You got to look nice to sit at the banquet, even in the restaurant. I was talking to a priest who is a Byzantine Catholic priest recently, and he said he's a Catholic priest, but is of the Eastern Rite. And he said, growing up, he said, I had such an experience with the Catholic Church, the Roman Church, that I leaned toward the Byzantine Church. I said, what happened? He said, well, part of my family was Byzantine, part of my family is Roman. And it was during the summer, and we were going to church. And I had, shorts. I was a kid, shorts, and a nice shirt, but it was summer wear. And the priest made a big stink about it. I shouldn't come to church looking like that. It's disgraceful and all that. Okay, so the kid was embarrassed. He was scarred and goes home. The next weekend, his cousins, who happened to be Byzantine, said, want to come to church with us? Just wear what you're wearing. And the priest welcomed him as a new member of the family, and he stuck with that, the Byzantine church. Now, I know there's a lot of people in our church, who get bitter because a priest said this or that to you. The church is bigger than the priest. The church is bigger than the bishop. The church is Christ inviting us to be at his banquet with the right attitude. And we all have the right attitude. And we all have the right thing to wear. And when we got that thing? We got that thing to wear when we were baptized. Now just imagine having this put around your head when you were baptized. The little white garment. And we come to the baptismal font, and this little white garment or a similar garment like this is put on us, reminding us that our obligation to come into the presence of God is not wearing the right clothes, but having the right disposition, having the right interior attitude, Christ's attitude. That's what the baptismal garment reminds us of. That's what Christ's invitation today reminds us of. Come with the right attitude, and everyone is invited. Good and bad. Everyone is invited, and mind your business that you don't like the person next to you. Mind your business that you don't think she or he should be here, because it doesn't matter. You're not issuing the invitation. God is issuing the invitation. And it's up to us to RSVP, to respond to the invitation the best way we know how. And I advise you, come next week prepared to celebrate your faith again. Don't worry about Versace. Don't worry about Armani. But worry about putting on Christ. Let us ask the Lord to